Tales from My Town. Original stories by Heather Gregory. Stories inspired by the people and pets of Rockwood, Ontario. Tales from My Town presents Impossible Possible. On Monday, Andrew declared, "I am never going back to Harris Mills Public School. Writing letters is impossible, and I feel hopeless. I just want to hide." So he hid behind the only tree in the schoolyard. On Tuesday, Bob declared, "I am never going back to school. Math is impossible. It is too hard." Bob hid behind Andrew, who hid behind the only tree in the schoolyard. On Wednesday, Doreen had to collect jumping frogs for science class. Catching frogs is impossible. "I am never going back to school," she stated. Doreen hid behind Bob, who hid behind Andrew, who hid behind the only tree in the schoolyard. On Thursday, it was Paul's turn to read his story to the class. And he was scared. "Standing in front of the class is impossible. I'm not going back to school," he said. Paul hid behind Doreen, who hid behind Bob, who hid behind Andrew, who hid behind the only tree in the schoolyard. On Friday, Mrs. Bell, the teacher, realized she had more students hiding behind the tree in the schoolyard than in her class. "This is an impossible problem," Mrs. Bell mused, but she knew just what to do to fix it. Mrs. Bell walked confidently to the tree. Andrew, Bob, Doreen, and Paul stared at Mrs. Bell. Mrs. Bell smiled. "Since you are never coming back to school, I thought I would bring school to you," she exclaimed. Andrew, Bob, Paul, and Doreen groaned. It was impossible to run away from school. "You can't hide from your problems. Hiding from them doesn't make them go away," Mrs. Bell explained. Andrew, Bob, Paul, and Doreen thought about what Mrs. Bell had said, and they nodded their heads in agreement. No matter how long they hid behind the tree, whenever they decided to come out of hiding, their problems would still be there. "Perhaps if we all help each other out, our problems won't seem so big," Mrs. Bell declared. Andrew, Bob, Paul, and Doreen decided to give Mrs. Bell's idea a try. "I will help Andrew with his letters if Andrew catches frogs for science class," Doreen replied. "I am good with numbers, so I can help Bob with his math," Paul said. "Everyone can help me talk in front of the class," Paul suggested. "You can help my problem by coming back to school," Mrs. Bell suggested with a smile. One by one, the students came out from behind the only tree in the schoolyard and went back to class. Many years later, when Andrew the writer, Paul the public speaker, Doreen the frog catcher, and Bob the math teacher would pass by the only tree in the schoolyard, they would all remember that working together to solve problems can make impossible things possible. Story by Heather Gregory. Art by Heather Gregory with the aid of clip art. Copyright 2021. And don't forget to subscribe to Tales from My Town.